Hello, everyone. Sports Focus. Nottingham Forest head to Liverpool tomorrow with the unenviable task of trying to maintain their unbeaten start to the Premier League season. Can they do it? Joining me to discuss Liverpool start to the season, their strengths and hopefully a few weaknesses is football writer and Liverpool fan Josh Williams. Josh, good to have you with us. How are you doing, mate?
Doing good, mate. Yeah, thanks for the invite. This is my debut on this channel, I think. So, yeah, looking forward to getting into it.
Yeah, definitely. Me and Josh used to work for the same company. He was really insightful on tactics and all that kind of stuff, especially around Liverpool. So I'm really looking forward to hearing what he's got to say tactically, his thoughts on Forest and just Liverpool's season in general. I suppose we should start with Liverpool's season in general, Josh. Obviously, a massive changing of the guard. Played 3, won 3, scored 7, non-conceded. Has it exceeded all expectations? Has it been an element of fortune, or is it totally deserved? What have you made of it?
I think so far it's been virtually perfect, to be honest. A lot of people surrounding Liverpool, but specifically outside Liverpool, expected a bit of a sudden decline, because Jurgen Klopp's departure, obviously. But I didn't. Looking at Liverpool's squad, it's a bit different to when Ferguson left and when Wenger left. Liverpool's squad is still very, very good. A lot of players still in prime age. The playing style was kind of already nailed. So, Arne Slot wasn't coming in and going through a massive overhaul, like, say, for example, Postecoglou did when he was appointed to Spurs. So I expected Liverpool to start well. I thought, I wasn't expecting any sudden decline or anything like that. But I suppose it has gone a bit better than I expected. I've been really impressed with Slot in particular. Obviously, you're kind of judging every single thing that he's doing, everything that he's saying, every change that he's making. But honestly, full marks so far. He's been really, really impressive. He's been a bit more cold than Klopp, maybe a bit more stern even. Obviously, the substitute in the first game of the season after 45 minutes of Gerald Kwanzaa. I mean, it wasn't great for me in FPL terms because I had him in my team. But I think it kind of offered an insight into what he's like as a manager. It was a really subtle tactical change, but one that really gave Liverpool a platform to go and win the game. And I think in each of our performances, we've deserved to win. I think the control that Liverpool showcased at Old Trafford in particular was really impressive, considering we went there 3 times last season. Didn't win any of them, despite Man United being a bit of a mess as a unit. So, yeah, I'd say Liverpool are just a lot more... But there's still the Liverpool that we all know, but just a lot more patient, a lot more controlling. Just a lot more measured, a lot more structured, maybe is probably the best way of putting it. And so far, so good in terms of availability as well, although Harvey Elliott did pick up an injury today while away with England. But everything so far suggests that Liverpool are going to have a really good season.
I did avoid Kwanzaa. I stupidly avoided Salah. I've now rectified that and added him into my team this week, which leads me into what I was going to ask. Do you think maybe 1 or 2 players with hindsight needed a change of manager? I mean, it seemed like his relationship with Klopp was getting a little bit strained. I don't know if that was the case for Salah, and maybe 1 or 2 more that perhaps a fresh voice, in hindsight, as good as Klopp had done, was kind of welcome, maybe.
Yeah, I think so. I think Slaughter came in and he's painted a picture of himself as a real winner. I think he's came in, and even in games that we've won, in pretty much every game, to be honest, because I think he's won every single match so far that he's played, including pre-season. So, but in every game, he's suggested after the match when he's been interviewed, this and that wasn't good enough, this and that we need to improve on. So he seems to be really testing, the Liverpool players. And I think certain players tactically needed... I think the best way of putting it is almost a bit more clarity regarding what exactly you want from them. And on top of that, potentially a bit of simplicity as well. I think obviously Klopp was there for about 9 years. Over that period of time, he's given certain players, like say for example Trent, he's given Trent so many instructions over the course of so many years, to the extent where it gets to a point where you may be a little bit of a mishmash of everything that you've learned over a couple of years. And sometimes it can take a bit of a fresh pair of eyes to look at that situation and think, right, let's chill out a bit here, you know what I mean? That kind of thing. So I think players like Luis Diaz has certainly benefited so far. A lot more clarity in his role. I think Gravenberg as well, obviously, has benefited from a real upturn in form, and he suddenly looks brilliant. I think Szoboszlai is benefiting from this kind of half and half role where he's kind of a midfielder, kind of a forward. And Trent as well. Trent is still just doing Trent things, don't get me wrong. I think there's not a lot changed there. But I think towards the back end of Klopp's tenure, it was a little bit more of just letting Trent almost interpret the game as he saw fit. And you could kind of go anywhere within the realms of the right side of the field. I think now it's a bit more intentional, depending on the opposition. But yeah, certain players definitely benefiting from an upturn in form. But Salah, Salah's always been Salah, and I think he just looks a lot sharper and everything. And I don't think it's just a haircut either.
And Trent as well. I've got. I'll put this. This is Liverpool under Slot, and I'm massively simplifying this, I guess, Josh, as a kind of a rough 4-2-3-1. And I'll ask you about a couple of individuals, but is that roughly what it is? Is it a different shape, and how is it different to what Klopp was doing with the heavy metal football cliche? What's changed specifically?
No, that's pretty much it. I think defensively, Szoboszlai kind of joins Jota, and it becomes a bit more of a 4-4-2. I think the way in which it's changed has primarily been in possession. Slot has just instigated a lot more control, a lot more patience. He's kind of openly criticised Liverpool based on what he saw last season for just getting the risk versus reward wrong too often, and basically taking too much risk for passes that aren't worth the reward. You're talking 5-yard passes here. So I think he's kind of looked at that and kind of reined that in a little bit. And as a result of that, Liverpool are only accelerating the game when they should. They've got a lot more sense around that now. So when they lose the ball, they're a lot more set, they're a lot more compact and things like that. Everything's a bit more predictable for the Liverpool players. I think Jota's kind of stayed high for the most part, kind of stayed away from the ball and just, stretched the play a little bit. Diaz and Salah have been, hugging the touchlines and being wide, but crucially when the ball's on the opposite side to Salah will come inside and look to get in the goals on the back post, and same for Diaz on the opposite flank. I think Robertson's probably been a little bit deeper than usual as kind of like a third centre-back at times with Trent advancing a little bit. But nevertheless, both players in certain situations, particularly when Liverpool are coming up against a team that aren't really interested in attacking, the fullbacks have been overlapping again, which has been nice. That kind of stopped last season. But yeah, all in all, I think as well, one other thing I add is the build-up from the back is definitely a huge addition. There's definitely a commitment to that. It feels very De Zerbi when you're watching it, where you're kind of enticing the press, and once the opposition kind of come towards you, you then quickly just move around them and then move up the field at rapid pace. So Liverpool have been committed to that. They've been building with the back four and the midfield two, and the other four players, Jota, Szoboszlai, Salah and Diaz, have kind of been staying basically on the edge of the final third. So I thought Liverpool would concede more shots through building from the back, just because they're getting used to it. But so far, so good at the moment.
When I look at that team, you don't see many weaknesses. And there's one area I was going to ask you about, is probably central midfield, because they seem to spend the whole summer trying to recruit a number 6. Couldn't get one. I guess Endo doesn't fit into the way he wants to play. So if I was looking at that team now, then I would say Gravenberg is probably the weakness. But it sounds like, is he a player transformed? Has he won Liverpool fans over, and we should look at him a different way this season?
Yeah, I would. There's no chance, based on what I've seen so far this season, that I would interpret Gravenberg as any sort of weakness. If I'm totally honest, he looked brilliant. I think the emphasis on being very De Zerbi-like and building from the back and all that sort of thing, it's just placed more of an emphasis than ever on the technical ability of Liverpool's players, their ability to receive the ball, their ability to evade pressure when they're being pressed from opponents and things like that. And Gravenberg's just really good at that. You can tell he's just a proper Ajax graduate who is really comfortable with the ball at his feet. And this is why Endo has kind of dropped out the picture, because under Klopp, Liverpool often would just kind of basically bypass the midfield and just hit it in the direction of one of the forwards who were just really quick at running them behind. So you've got Nunes, you've got Diaz, Salah, and things like that. Now it's very kind of like, we move the pitch like it's a ladder, and we play through midfield. So Gravenberch receiving the ball has been really, really good, and he's linked the play in elements that, it's been really impressive. Endo just couldn't do it at that level. But defensively as well, he can really run, he can cover a lot of ground, and he's been putting a foot in as well. It's been quite impressive. McAllister's been doing a lot of that with him. But yeah, I don't think Liverpool's midfield at all is a weakness, to be honest. And I agree with you. I don't think there's many weak points to target in this Liverpool team, and that's why, me personally, I'm kind of convinced that Liverpool are probably going to challenge for the big honours this season, and potentially finish above Arsenal. I wouldn't be too surprised.
Well, I think the next 2 or 3 weeks might decide where Arsenal go. I would say, when you look at the fixtures and the injuries and Rice's suspension, it's a big few weeks for them. But true. On Liverpool, then, is that roughly going to be the team? Because with international breaks and Diaz is in Colombia, I guess, and players are travelling, maybe they pick up a knock. Will that be the 11 we see, or might it be different?
I think that could be the 11 that you see. I think some concerns I'd have. McAllister has played for Argentina, and in the second game, he was reported to have a knock, so he starts the second game on the bench, but he still got brought on, which Liverpool fans haven't really been too happy about. So I think McAllister is at potential risk of being rotated, but we don't have too many options, to be honest. Jota is a player who has just played minutes for Portugal, whereas Nunes has just spent the entire fortnight at Anfield on Merseyside, spending it with Slot and things like that. So it could be a case of Nunes gets a few minutes, but again, I still think Jota might start, and Diaz. Yeah, you make a good point. I think Gakpo is a solid backup option there. You also have Chiesa, who has spent the last fortnight on Merseyside just training with his new group. So Liverpool have options there, but I would expect that Trent is another one, by the way, who I should throw in there. He was really prominent for England, which isn't usually the case, and you have Conor Bradley there as a potential rotation option. But I think Liverpool will just go with that, if I'm totally honest, with McAllister. And I think probably McAllister's the main worry for me. And I think if he misses out, Jones probably comes in if he's fit enough. I think there's reports in the past few days that he's just come back from injury. So there's potential for that one, but it's probably what you've saw so far is probably what you're going to get.
Oh dear. Well, they're all good, so it doesn't really matter these fellas, to be fair. Just before we talk about Forest a bit more, and I throw some possible formations, Josh, just a word for the Trent navigation. Next home game feels a world away, but it's on the 28th of September, Forest v Fulham. Straight after the match is music from Steve McGill, who's a popular artist who plays there. Pizza Kitchen, we can talk about pizzas. I'm going to actually ask Josh what his favourite pizza is, because as is tradition. Barbecue, 2 outdoor bars, Cascade ciders, and they do accept cash. Which is an increasing rarity these days. So get down to the nav for that. As I said, Josh, I normally advertise pizzas on here because they have an offer on Wednesdays. So every guest tends to get asked their favourite pizza. So putting you on the spot, what's your favourite pizza?
I'm probably going to disappoint many people with my answer here, but I am a very vanilla person when it comes to pizza. So I am a margarita man, sadly. Less is more, as is always the case with my content.
So you didn't say vanilla. We've had some weird answers. We had hot sauce, and we've had some really odd ones in the last few weeks. Right, let's talk about Forest and a couple of formations. I sent Josh 3 formations that we might play, and I'll ask him about them. I mean, the first one is the 4-2-3-1. Everyone knows, so I don't need to go through that, but that's what we've played. The second one was one we discussed on Monday with Prutz and whoever it was, Mikey, I think. No, Pete, sorry. Which was the 3 at the back with Bolly, Milenkovic and Murillo. Bolly we'll know by the time this comes out if Bolly's fit or not, but he seems to have missed one of the international games with injury. Aina and Moreno as wing backs, Sangare sitting, and then Anderson and Ward-Prowse in midfield, with Gibbs White in support of Chris Wood if he starts as well, having played internationally in the States this week. And then the other one was sort of a 3-4-3, because people were telling me we've got to play at least one winger at Anfield to offer some threat in behind. So we've got this one, Sells in goal, Bolly, Milenkovic, Murillo. That's an imposter Murillo. I don't know who that is. That's the wrong one. I put the wrong one in. Aina, Sangare. I put Ward-Prowse there, but it could be Anderson, etc., etc. Moreno left wing, and then Gibbs White, fresh from England duty, sort of playing a narrower role because he's not a winger. Hudson-Odoi from the left, I guess to keep Trent honest, and then Chris Wood up front. So of those formations, Josh, which one would potentially cause Liverpool the most problems, do you think, without leaving Forest massively exposed to getting murdered?
I think if we're talking specific formations, I like the first two. I think the second one in particular reminds me a lot of a system I think Steve Cooper used at Anfield around that time when Liverpool were doing the whole, box midfield thing, where the back five, crucially the diamond in the middle of the park, I think can cause problems for coaches like Slot, basically, and De Zerbi. Liverpool, for example, when we faced Brighton a few times, Klopp would use a midfield diamond to defend, and that's very unlike Klopp as well, but the reason for that was because De Zerbi built through the centre of the pitch so often and tried to overload the centre of the pitch so often that if you just kind of get everyone in there, you're going to cause problems. I think for Liverpool, it is kind of similar. It's about overloading the centre of the pitch and creating one-on-ones on the flanks, really. So I think if you was to use a back five and the midfield diamond as well, I think there might be potential problems when it comes to actually attacking Liverpool and creating chances yourself. But in terms of stopping Liverpool, I think that would probably offer the most security, and I think that would probably ask the most questions of Liverpool. I think the first system, the 4-2-3-1, I'm assuming that drops into a 4-4-2 defensively, does it? Or does it still look like that defensively?
Well, Wood drops deeper without the ball. Gibbs White ends up being more advanced sometimes, weirdly. Hudson-Odoi does no defending. He doesn't track back. I guess he's given a license, and Elanga tends to work back. So it's sort of Hudson-Odoi is always left high. So we are exposed down that side. But I was thinking, like, you wouldn't want to give Trent the freedom of the park. But I guess does he just come inside, or does he actually stay as a proper right back in this system?
I think you would almost. It sounds very old school to say this nowadays, but I think you would almost have to man mark Trent because he's playing so good at the moment, and he's kind of just occupying whatever space is free. Like he'll just kind of drift anywhere. So it almost might have to be kind of like a turn to piece man marking job between Hudson-Odoi, Gibbs White, and Anderson almost. But I think the reason I think that one might be a little bit more favourable in terms of attacking Liverpool, at least, is number one, the individuals, obviously, and the speed. But number two, Ipswich have been pretty much the only team, really, that have caused Liverpool problems so far. In that first half against Ipswich, they basically, the way I said earlier, that Liverpool build with a back four and a midfield two, Ipswich basically used the front four to essentially man-mark Liverpool's entire back four. And it was really problematic for us. They went man for man all over the pitch, very aggressive. Liverpool created absolutely nothing. Slot solved it at half-time, and we were much, much, much better in the second half. I think we posted something like 15 shots in the second half alone, and I think it was 3 in the first half. But I think with that shape there, you could do a similar man-marking job against Liverpool's back four and midfield two, using Wood, Hudson-Odoi, Gibbs White and Elanga, and then maybe Anderson and Sangare pushing up a tiny bit or something like that. But obviously you then have the threat of, like, if you are beaten, you then have to deal with the likes of Salah and Diaz and Jota and that running at your back four, which is obviously a problem. So there's lots of different ways you could do it. I think I would potentially start with that, and if I was to get a lead, or if I was to maybe get to a point around the hour mark, or even in the second half, even if I think if I was to use that and I was to get to half time and the scores were level, I think then I would adopt the second formation almost. I think if you're going to use the same system for 90 minutes against Liverpool, based on what I've seen so far, I think Slot will figure it out. He's been really, really good when it comes to tactical changes mid-game so far. So, yeah, it's tricky.
I watched that Ipswich game, most of it, and the first half they were so brave, like you say. But just explain to listeners how he solved it around changing centre halves, which isn't the most obvious solution. How did that work?
So if you imagine Liverpool's back four being all being basically within the width of their penalty box, that's how Liverpool have built the game. It's been very, very narrow. So it allowed Ipswich to go man for man. Everything was really central. Liverpool couldn't really get out. So the solution to that, really simple, but the solution to that was basically, rather than the whole back four being the width of their penalty box, put Van Dijk on one corner of the penalty box, put Konate on the other corner, and basically allow Trent and Robertson to push up a little bit and a little bit wider. So suddenly your back four, rather than being super narrow, it was as wide as it could possibly be. And suddenly Ipswich, using the same approach, had to cover much wider spaces, much more ground. And on top of that, because Ipswich were going man for man all over the pitch, Slot recognised this and saw the likes of Salah, Jota and Diaz up against, I mean, I can't even name the Ipswich centre-backs, to be honest. So we suddenly started, rather than meticulously building from the back, we suddenly switched it up and we were playing forward a lot quicker, playing a lot more direct, making it about those battles in the final third. And it was just a completely different game. So if you was to adopt that approach, Liverpool might not even need Slot this time before, say 25 minutes in or something. Van Dijk and Konate might just automatically stretch out a lot, just because that was the solution 2 games ago. So yeah, it was really good approach by Ipswich, really sensible, but it only worked for 45 minutes.
Will Konate start? Because I don't know anything about him. It seems like he struggles to play too many games. You've got Champions League coming up. I don't know if he went away with France or not, but could Quansah come in, or has Slot got some concerns about him winning duels? I think was one of the issues he mentioned.
I think Quansah will start. Sorry, I think Konate will start. But you are right on the injury thing. Like, I think he'll start this game. I think he'll potentially start against Milan. I think we've got Milan next in the midweek. But I think beyond that, you will have to bring in Quansah a fair bit, just simply to keep Konate away from the injury table. He does pick up knocks. That is frustrating, but I think level-wise, though, Quansah is definitely a level above defensively. Quansah's better on the ball. And I don't think it's a case of him like not winning enough duels or getting bullied or anything like that. I think it was just this game in particular. He was up against Liam Delap, who is, he's a bit of a unit, to be fair to him, a bit like Chris Wood, to be honest. So I think given that, you're probably going to have Konate in there just because he's a bit more of a physical specimen, and he will allow Liverpool to just, dominate the game a bit more.
Just on Wood as well. I know we've been there before. Home and away, Tyrell Awoniyi's given you problems. He's had his issues at Forest, mainly with injuries. But if he's anything like, and he starts again, could a player of Tyro's profile, or Wood, I guess, as well, Tyro's a bit more athletic, can they rough up Liverpool's centre halves then, or have they move beyond that?
I think in this game, Chris Wood is kind of, I don't want to be too strong on this, but I think it feels like he's kind of useless. And when I say that, it's because, in my mind at least, Chris Wood's link-up play is all right. It's not like it's not unbelievable and like that. But the way he links up play in my mind is by essentially being a target man and using his body and things like that. I think the problem with that against Liverpool is Van Dijk and Kanate are bigger than him, stronger than him, and faster than him. So to kind of rough up Liverpool centre backs, like you might be able to rough up someone like a Ruben Diaz, for example, or Nathan Ake or someone like that. I just don't think you can do that with Liverpool centre halves. So I think he would be relatively easy to manage for them. Whereas Taiwo, he's caused Liverpool problems in the past because not only has he got that kind of physique about him, but he's quite quick as well. And he's a bit unpredictable too. When he's got the ball at his feet, you kind of don't really know what he's going to do. I'm not sure he does. Whereas Wood's a bit more just robotic and stuff like that. So unless Wood was to do something from a set piece, I think Liverpool would be fine there. Whereas if Taiwo was fit, I would be much more interested in using him because he would then add to the kind of counter-attacking threat that you're already posing with Elanga and Hudson-Odoi with that speed.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, I wouldn't ever say he's going to be useless, but I know what you're saying.
I don't want to be too strong on that yet, but
but he scored loads of goals for us, but a lot of them I think are from service from out wide. He's a good finisher, but he needs bodies around him. And I don't know in a game like this is he going to get that? So yeah, I can see Taiwo starting. Just looking at that 11 for us, I don't know how familiar you are with what we have to offer, and you could throw Ward-Prowse into the mix potentially as a starter. Are there any players there that you admire or that you worry could hurt Liverpool at the weekend?
Yeah, there's quite a few actually. So I think Milenkovic is an interesting sign. He's a player I've been aware of for a few years now, mainly because of his size and his threat from set pieces. But I think he's also just always been a consistently available player, and just again because of his size, he's always struck me as a player who's applicable to the Premier League. I always thought he was very David Moyes' West Ham. So I'm a little bit surprised that move never came to fruition. So I think he's a good little player. Well, little being a funny word to use. Sangare is another one who I've been aware of for years. I'm not exactly sure how he's done since he's been at Forest, but he's a player who I remember scouting when he was at Toulouse, I think, and then he moves to PSV, and then he moves to Forest, I think. So he's a player who I've always been aware of as looking like quite a well-rounded. No major weaknesses there, and he posted decent numbers in attack and defence. Quite an all-rounder there. I think Gibbs White's probably your best player, if I'm honest. Really good player. I think he's just good at most things, and seems to be very, very committed to the cause and all that sort of thing. Elliot Anderson, I think, is a good sign. I think he got him for a very good price, and I'm always impressed with the physicality of Arne. I remember watching a game where he basically just jogs past Kyle Walker. And on top of that, he's just really he's quite built as well. He's quite muscular. So as a one-on-one fullback, he should be. I'm not sure if he is week to week or whatever, but he looks like the kind of fullback who should be difficult to beat. Say for example, if you Luis Diaz coming up against him, but I'm not sure if that's the case. I don't watch him every week and anything like that, but he's got the skills to be a good player.
Interesting. Good to hear some of that. Yeah, Sangare's. He struggled last season. But there's lots of mitigation that we've discussed in this podcast repeatedly around AFCON injuries. Malaria is always a slight hindrance for a footballer's ability to run. So so that was one. And Arne's done ever so well, and hopefully we keep him for years to come. I mean, I often ask guests this. As the season goes along, does that team look to you like one that can finish, 14th to 16th, 17th, not get relegated, basically?
Yeah, I'd say it does, and I'd say it's also kind of moving towards being a bit more of a Nuno team than it originally was, maybe. I think Nuno's just at his pomp, at least when he was at Wolves, he was kind of just really good at that whole mid-block counter-attacking thing where, you're kind of worried to make a wrong pass because his team will kill you, and that looks a lot more, Nuno to me. I think obviously there's no back three, which is what he was doing at Wolves a lot of the time, but the whole kind of middle block really compact, and then we'll be going straight at your goal with no sideways passes or anything like that when we get the ball. Certainly, at least when you're facing a stronger opponent anyway, like Liverpool. I think you could have a decent season, yeah, and I think the window that you've experienced is decent as well.
Hopefully so. And I'm sure you probably follow XG, and I'm sure I know you do, and all that. So our numbers are like third best in the league so far defensively. Hugely small sample size. I know.
Yeah, I did see that. Yeah. I thought that was interesting. I think from what I've seen, I think it was marginally better than Liverpool's actually, which caught me off guard. But I haven't watched any of Forest's games so far. So has that played out in how you've seen it with the eye test as well?
I think so. It's been the story of Forest under Nuno. Last season, we were under Nuno 5th or 6th for XG. You can see, conceded defensively, and attacking we were much better. We just had this Achilles heel of set pieces that, touch wood, we've solved. But yeah, it does follow the eye test. I think we're making strides in the right direction. I mean, we're not going to finish. We might finish top half. I find it very unlikely, and I don't think we'll win this game. But I don't think we're going to get completely tanked. I was looking at the spread betting markets, and they've got Liverpool scoring 2.2 goals or something like that. I think as long as we go there and put up a good performance, and then look at the other games, then I would be pretty comfortable. Yeah, I think you'll win this one comfortably, to be honest. And I do think you'll challenge for the title.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, this has been another thing, to be fair, with Liverpool so far. It seems to have been a case of once you kind of have a lead, once you get a 2-goal lead, really, we've seen Liverpool essentially stop playing almost. So I think that's just a means of preserving your energy and controlling the game and avoiding the kind of roller coaster that Klopp always just seemed to lean towards, always seemed to favour. That was why he was Liverpool, I suppose, under Klopp, where the neutral favourites almost sometimes, because they were so entertaining. Whereas under Slot, I think the prospect of getting absolutely hammered is a little bit less, but the prospect of getting dominated where it's borderline boring has probably increased. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this one plays out.
Just lastly, as well, while I was thinking about it, his subs are interesting. I mean, they're kind of incredibly predictable, taking off Jota and Diaz, after 70 minutes when the game's run. But equally, he's taken off Trent in every game, certainly in 2 of them. I mean, that's something you wouldn't have seen under Klopp, is it?
Well, Trent, I think it happened in the second game. I don't think Trent especially liked it. And he kind of made his feelings known and all that sort of stuff. Slot had a word with him on the bench and things. And then a week later, we go to Old Trafford and he does it again. And this time, Trent did as he was told, which was good to see. Again, just another tip to Arne Slot's management. But I've seen someone saying that it was quite insistent, kind of quite thought-provoking for me at the time. Someone said that it could be tactical, as in, like, if there's one player in Liverpool's team who basically has a license to accelerate the game whenever he wants, it is Trent. Sometimes he will do it when you just don't need to. So if Liverpool get a 2-goal lead, which I think we have held on all of the occasions he's been subbed, you just don't need to take risks to that level anymore. So, and the game's to a certain extent won. So it does make sense in those moments to take Trent off, preserve his energy, but also just preserve the clean sheet. So that one's going to be interesting to monitor because he's arguably Liverpool's most important player nowadays. We're going to want him all season. But last season he missed a few games due to injury, and he's now playing more for England and stuff. So yeah, that's going to be an interesting moment. If Liverpool have a lead, I don't see why it wouldn't continue because it's quite sensible when you think about it. Like,
true, certainly is. Right, I've enjoyed this just as much as I thought I would. If you've enjoyed it as well, do us a favour, hit like, do subscribe. You can become a channel member and give us a lovely review on iTunes and Spotify. But definitely just like this if you're watching on YouTube, so that does make a huge difference. Josh, I don't know if you write exclusively about Liverpool, but even if you do, where can people find more of your work and listen to you a bit more?
So I am on Twitter. Well, I'm on every platform actually as at Distance Covered. And if you want to follow my work, which I do only cover Liverpool, but every piece that I produce is data driven and tactical. So if you're interested in that sort of thing, that's exclusively what I write about. I don't write about referees or who deserves the captain's armband or any of that nonsense in my head. I just cover the stuff that I think is interesting. So if you want to follow that sort of thing, I have a Substack, distancecovered.substack.com. Subscribe. But yeah, appreciate the invite, mate.
No, great to have you on. Look forward to hopefully having you on for the reverse fixture at our place, which I could see us getting a result there. Hopefully, I don't know when it is, but yeah, that'll be a different kettle of fish. Hopefully, really enjoyed discussing this one. We'll be back tomorrow with the Liverpool post-match show, no matter how it's gone, and then on Monday we'll delve into it a bit deeper as well and look ahead to Brighton away. We've got an awful run of fixtures. Liverpool, Brighton, Fulham at home and Chelsea away before the next international break. So this will be more fun, interesting than the first 3 games. Right. Hopefully we'll catch you tomorrow, but if not, we shall see you soon.